Hello.
Hey, welcome. We have a guest. Have any of you met RGT85? We
Hello.
did. We did in real life. Real life. It was awesome. When I first messaged you, RGT. Oh, did you want to do any intros, Rhea? Please get your comments in if you have a question for RGT as well. We'll try to accommodate anyone in the chat. We're very happy for the opportunity, man.
Oh,
Not a
yeah,
lot
no
of
problem.
not a lot of big. No shade of big YouTubers. They're busy, full-time YouTubers. Not, I really appreciate you making time for the small fries like me and Rhea.
No problem, man. It's everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah.
You know.
Actually, when I first messaged you on X, I wasn't just blowing smoke. You did really inspire me, and I think Rhea as well. After our too many games last time to challenge ourselves with content. This is actually the series started shortly after, isn't that right, Rhea? We started doing this. We started workshopping what we wanted to do.
Yeah, like this was just an on the fly sort of on the showroom floor, just hey, like what do you think of this idea? Max, proposed it and I was like, "Yeah, I think that's great." And yeah, I over the years I've gotten to know like a lot of other like really awesome creators too who I've gotten to network with and interact with and make content with. So, I'm really, stoked that you were able to join us today, RGT. And yeah, like to Max's point, I've been, a fan of your content for quite a number of years, and yeah, I'm just like stoked to get into it. Some of the stuff that, makes you tick as a person, not to mention like, the content you work on. I think like, that was the biggest, sort of endeavor that I found I worthwhile with this show is to like get to know the person behind the channel since we all more or less know what you talk about on your channel, but the person behind the camera for sure is probably the most interesting to me personally. So yeah, I'm really stoked you could join us today.
Yeah, no problem. I'm looking forward to it. Should be a good time. I remember meeting you guys at Too Many Games, the outside portion of the meet and greet, and I was a very hot and sweaty boy during that during that. And I remember when we got done, we wanted to go eat, and I was like, John, I need to go shower. He's like, oh no, you're fine. You don't have to go shower. You're fine. Come on, we'll get some food. So I didn't get the shower till after that, but yeah.
That's okay. I think a lot there didn't have the same situation. No,
That is
no typical nerd uh, making fun of nerds, but you're there's so much to do there. There's so much to
yeah.
do. You don't have time.
Showering for a lot of
We
people is
we're
still on the
we
priority.
actually we asked questions in the panel too. Honestly, my Rhea right here, my good friend. I kind of was in the like I'm not shading towards big YouTubers. I wasn't going to plan to meet you. She was going to meet other. I really wanted to do panel questions, and I really appreciate the panels. But I got to say, the theme of the show, have you met? I I do say if you are going to a convention where RGT is at, definitely he's one of the top YouTubers to go meet for sure. Uh, really cool how welcoming you are to everybody. And then I'm like, you always kind of think with a YouTuber, maybe they're like not exactly the way they are in the video, but I'm like, no, it totally matches what you see in the video. Well, a little bit more entertaining in the video, but I totally get your personality in real life too. So definitely go meet him for sure.
Well, there definitely are YouTubers who are kind of like dicks in real life, like 100%. Like I've met some of them, and you know, I don't really hang out with people like that because like
Okay.
I don't know. That's weird to me. Like some people legit, like I know people who have like gone to a con as a guest. They did their panel and then they just went up to their hotel room and it's like, what are you doing? Like, go talk to people. Like, this is why you're here. Like, this isn't for you. This is like a vacation. Like, because that's something like I don't view it as like, oh, I'm going away for a couple of days. It's like, no, this is work, pal. Like, you're out there to you could do your own thing, but like you're out there to talk to people and do panels and stuff like that. Like people are coming to see you, and so I don't like there's egos in the higher ups of YouTube, but like none of the people I roll with are like that because if they were, I wouldn't roll with them.
Okay. Yeah, I felt that also from Spawncast and Mystic and oh, she was a really nice person. I forget her name. The your
Oh,
you usually class her. Josie. Yes. Very down to earth people, really. So on this show, we like to get a little bit more. I don't know if have you ever been on an interview? Have you ever been interviewed yet? Or were you your first interview?
It's mostly the interviews are just about like games and stuff like that. So,
All right. Well, we kind of want to go back into the past of where you started your love for video games or your childhood. Like what game, like your first game system, your first game, even your first because we talk about lots of nerd culture here, your first movie, your first music that really got you, that you're like, "Oh, I like this." Is there any game that really got you, or first system you bought, or first game you bought on your own?
so I was introduced to video games at like 3 years old.
3.
My uncle, who is he's kind of an extension of me. Like
Okay.
we act very similar. Like he's now, I think he just turned 60, but he's still like a giant kid. But instead of video games now, he's really into alcohol. Like he's got like 2 bars in his house. I'm like, what are you
Oh,
doing?
okay.
But he was big into video games when I was growing up. So when I was 3, I remember going over to his apartment with my mom, and he had an NES with Super Mario Brothers, and I was like, what is this? This is amazing. And I
Mhm.
wanted to just sit there. I didn't want to do anything else. And then he ended up getting a Genesis Model 1 with Sonic the Hedgehog 1, and once again it was like that same sort of feeling, like oh my god, this is amazing. And I, for Christmas that year when he got the Genesis, I want to say I was 5 maybe. um he, let me think mathematically, because when did Sonic come out? 90 or 91, the first one?
I think 91.
Okay, so I would have been 6. um that's when I got my first console, because he, like, it was the late Christmas gift. Oh, it's behind the couch. What's this? It's a plastic bag, and it was his NES and all of his games. And so that was the first system I ever had for myself. And as far as like movies and music go, I was big into, Batman, Ninja Turtles, stuff like that, Ghostbusters. I didn't really have many of the toys because we didn't really have much money growing up. Pro wrestling, that was another thing. I was just glued to the TV. Fucking Hulk Hogan was just like the greatest thing in the world. Music was actually very interesting because um my biological dad, who I would see on the weekends, he was really big into music and like dance music and like freestyle music and stuff like that, like Noel, and like nobody knows who Noel is, but like I
Silent Morning.
Silent morning,
Morning.
wake up and you're not by myself, like stuff like that. And like, so that's a lot of the stuff that I listened to around that time. And of course, like Michael Jackson and stuff like that. Cause like it was weird. Like my parents split when I was like 1, just because they weren't, you know, my mom had gotten pregnant and then they got married because she was mad young, but then they were like, yeah, we're not really compatible. But like everyone was friends. And
That's
he actually literally lived down the street from me. And he was living with his mom it was a 3-family house, and they lived on the second floor, and on the third floor was my dad's sister, which was my aunt, and she had a son that was around my age, and they had everything. They had all the video. He had all the video games. He had the Michael Jackson records. He had all the toy. He had the Ghostbusters house. And I'm like, okay. I remember distinctly when I was like 6 or 7 asking my mom, I was like, Mom, why does Nick have everything and I don't? And she was like, well, when you're older, you'll understand, but it has to do with the government. And I was like, oh, okay. And because like, I guess because he had a bunch of sisters and stuff like that. She was a single mom. So she was getting that government cheese
okay.
and just spending it on them. Cause like, their place wasn't like super nice, but like inside it was just like Genesis, Super Nintendo, all these toys. So I loved going over there. But yeah, that's kind of, I guess traditional for someone born in like 85. But the first console I ever got that was a new console to me was my biological father had gotten me a Sega Genesis Model 2 with Sonic the Hedgehog 2 as the pack-in game. And I remember my cool uncle Mike, R.I.P. He just passed away last
Sorry for your
year.
loss.
Yeah. He it was funny because like I'm also very much like him, but I never really saw him much growing up, which kind of makes it weird. But like he's just like kind of a curmudgeon, like he was very dark humor and stuff like that. And he bought me a copy of Mortal Kombat, and he was like, "Yeah, I heard all the little shithead kids like this game. Here you go." And I was like, "Yeah." And I remember my mom was so pissed. She made me return it to KB Toys.
Oh no, really?
And yeah, and I had to pick another game. And I ended up picking up MiG Fighter Pilot 29 with a flight yoke. And I don't know why. I think the flight yoke just enticed me. And then yeah, I never got the plane off the ground.
Oh, sad story. You eventually got your Mortal Kombat cart though, right?
Yeah. The you know, as I got older, she was cool with it. It was I don't know, because my cousin, the one that lived above my dad, he had it, so I would just play it there, and I was just like, whatever.
Okay, cool. Do you remember which console you bought yourself first, or those are great memories with your family. My first one that I actually bought myself without my parents' help was the Dreamcast.
I think mine would have been, I guess, PS3.
Or no, maybe N64. N64 Dreamcast. But yeah, PS3. That's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah, because Best Buy gave me a credit card when I was like 19 with like a $2,000 limit, and I was like, yes. So I bought a PS3 with I bought the Metal Gear Solid 4 bundle because yeah, like the GameCube and stuff like that. My parents bought that for me. PS2, I got a used one, but it wasn't really my money. You know, maybe some of it was mine, but as far as like actually buying the whole thing with my money, would have been the PS3.
Oh, cool. Ray, if you have any question about like his past, I have one more. I was going to ask about what did you want to be when you were going to grow up? Like, did you foresee I'm going to be an internet reviewer and commentator? What did you plan for when you're any plans where you're gaming all that stuff and getting into wrestling and video games? And what was the small RGT thinking about in the future?
When I was really little, I wanted to drive a backhoe, like the truck that has like the scoop on it. And like beyond that, I never really knew, because like when I was a teenager, like I got into like drugs and drinking and stuff like that, and so I didn't really care about anything. And then when I started working like a normal job, I didn't really know what I was like gonna do. I somehow became a pharmacy technician, and then I did that from 18 to 32, 33-ish, with a 1-year break in between when I went to work at a GameStop as an acting assistant manager. But yeah, so I didn't really know, like beyond a backhoe driver, like I didn't really have much plans. I was winging it.
Okay. Did you have something, Ray?
No, yeah, I just wanted to again thank everyone for piling into the chat, just trying to say hi to everyone, make sure everyone is having a good time. But yeah, as far as like what I'm interested in, I guess hearing more of like a story time from you, RGT, is when you were initially sort of like, in the midst of like working as well as like juggling making YouTube content. I guess like during the midst of that, could you kind of like take us back to, what was it that was like, yes, I'm gonna, I'm all in on YouTube.
Sure. So at that time, so let me go back like a year and a half before I came to that decision. I was editor in chief at Nintendo Enthusiast. I ended up getting into like writing and stuff like that back in 2012 because I had a friend who was um who's actually the manager of our local GameStop, And he was telling me, he was like, yeah, me and a couple of guys are doing some writing and stuff like that. We're getting all these free games to review and stuff. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I was like, well, I want some free games. He was like, can you write? I was like, I mean, I did all right in English class in school. So, yeah, I think so. And he was like, well, we'll try it out. And so that's kind of how I got my foot into writing. And then that website, I mean, we got like way more stuff than we should have gotten. Like, I remember Capcom sent me like 4 copies of Resident Evil Revelations and like on the 3DS, and like a Chris Redfield toboggan that had like an earpiece in it. I wish I still had it. That was really cool and stuff like that. And so because of how that website was structured, and there was only like 5 or 6 of us, and so everyone had like their own systems, and so they covered that. And at that time, I had just gotten a Wii U, because I was kind of interested in it. I was living with a couple buddies. We had an Xbox 360. We had my PS3 in the house as well. So I had access to everything, but they didn't really have anyone that would do Wii U and 3DS stuff. And I happen to have both of those. So I was like, well, I mean, that's what I'll do then. And so then that website, everyone kind of went their own separate ways. I decided I still wanted to write.
Okay.
So I sent out like a resume, just, showing people like my body of work to a couple different Nintendo websites since I had those systems. And then I ended up working with Nintendo enthusiasts, kind of getting in on the ground floor, blah, 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 rose through the ranks, because I was just kind of determined to do that. And all the meanwhile, I'm still working a full-time job, but my goal was to try and make it so that I can maybe do like part-time and then part-time that and make it work financially. But they also had a YouTube channel that had like 1,000 subscribers on it. And I was like, oh, wow. I was like, I want to make videos for this. And they were like, do you know how to make videos? I was like, no, I do not, but I'll figure it out. And so I made some really crappy videos. And at that time, they had another guy come in. His name was Jason. The website was based out of Canada. So he came in and he had like a $2,000 camera crew and like nice locations to film at and lapel mics and stuff, like all sorts of crazy stuff. And it was crazy. So I got immediate, like, I hate this guy, like this guy's showing me up.
That's how I found you first. That's how I first remember seeing you back in the day.
Yeah, so we were bitter enemies for a while, but
really? I didn't know that part.
Oh yeah. When he first came on, I couldn't stand that dude. But as time went on, we started working together and levying both of our strengths kind of against each other. But so that website, things were changing, people were leaving, things were changing within it. And I had started my own side channel because I wanted to talk about things beyond just Nintendo. And it didn't really make sense to do it on, talk about a Sega game on Nintendo Enthusiast YouTube channel. So they were like, well, just make your own channel. That's what everyone else does. I'm like, okay. So I started doing that. And then the goal shifted to, okay, maybe I can have like a part-time job, have my channel, and then I made some money at Nintendo Enthusiast. It was not a lot. It was nowhere near enough to live off of or anything like that, but potentially combined with 2 other income sources, maybe I can make it work. But as time went on, like the personal channel ended up like taking off quite a bit. And then I ended up leaving Nintendo Enthusiast just because, it was kind of time for that. Most of the people that I had worked with had left. So it was kind of like a different vibe there and stuff like that. So then it was just my channel and my job. And, every month the channel started making more and more money. And it got to a point where it was making just as much as I was making at my full-time job. And I was like, well, I'm only putting like half of myself into this because I'm still working, 40 hours a week or whatever. I wonder if I can do it and not have my day job. So I kind of looked at some things. I started planning things out and I was just like, for the next 6 months, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go to work and I'm just going to make videos. That's it. all my friends, no, I'm gone. Sorry, you're not going to contact me. And so I did that. I saved up a bunch of money. Um, and I was just like, I think it's time. I think I'm going to try it. And I wanted to leave where I was living. I wanted to move somewhere completely different where I didn't know anyone. So that way I didn't have any distractions or anything like that. And I basically saved up enough money to where, if everything went to shit, I could just move back to where I was and go back to my job. The people at my job liked me and they were cool with that. And if it worked out, then, sky was the limit. And thankfully, it did work out.
Cool. Thanks for sharing all that. So what I got from the beginning is that you did it at first to get free games.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And then on the side, like a side hustle, like with your regular job to get, to support your hobby, which is a great way. And you kind of did it the smart way. Some people just don't even prep anybody. Just I'm just going to go all in. So I respect the way you did.
That's a terrible idea.
Yeah, that's a terrible. Well, just a little bit of a reveal before we got started. If I can share this part, RGT, you said this isn't forever. And I think you have the tools for YouTubers to be a lifelong YouTuber, but maybe you don't want, I don't know. Can you comment on that? You said this might not, you didn't, you said not, this might not, you said this isn't going to be forever. I'm having fun while it lasts. So I feel like I think you have the tools in your wheelhouse for the full ride. I think you'll be a YouTuber when you're 60, right before retirement, still talking about Nintendo and not being a Nintendo YouTuber.
I mean, it would be cool, but you never know. Like,
right.
And you see it with so many people. I mean, it only takes one little minuscule change to YouTube to potentially, crush your channel, or one mess up on your end, or, this, that, or the other. So I always look at it from a perspective of, and then there's the whole tax side of things. Like, so many people that just blow up overnight or something like that, they don't understand like how that side, the business side of it works. And I didn't understand how that worked. And I got completely screwed over on the first year I was a full-time YouTuber, and it ended up being a 6-year battle with the IRS that just ended up getting handled because of how I strolled into an H&R Block and I didn't know what I was doing. She wasn't super familiar with, my line of work, and, it just got screwed up. And when I went to, tell them that there was an issue, that H&R Block actually had gotten shut down because of the pandemic, and it just became this whole big thing. But luckily, I have a personal accountant now, and it's much better. But yeah, like there's the whole business side. Once money starts, getting involved in the YouTube thing, like a lot of people don't know kind of what to do, how to handle it, and they think it's going to last forever. And I'm more of the mindset where like I save money, I am frugal with certain things. I, not a lot of flexing on the Instagram or anything like that. Like, whatever. Don't worry about me. I'm okay over here. Investments, stuff like that. So,
okay.
I mean, if it does, I will ride. My whole thing is ride the train till the wheels fall off. And if one day it's all gone, I'll be okay. I've got an idea of where I am, where I need to be, where I could potentially be. But, ideally it'll always, be something. And I can always position, I can always, change the style of videos I do and, how often they are and stuff like that. But just trying to stay on top of things now. And especially with this upcoming year, like this is going to be a hot year. Obviously you got well, at some point in time, you'll have a new system come out. That's always really good, crazy stuff. Because if anything, I think this was kind of a down year. And when you look at what's nominated for Game of the Year at Game Awards,
yes,
we put DLC in there. And I still did all right. I still did good this year. So I think next year will be an even better year.
Oh yeah, there'll be a lot to compare with the potentially Switch 2. And then what if Sony and Xbox are actually developing handhelds.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be a lot more action next year, and a lot more games to cover. That I shouldn't say there wasn't games this year. There was, but they're just not necessarily my cup of tea. And if something doesn't interest me, like I'm not gonna buy it and play it just to try it. Like like I know what types of games I like. I know what types of games I gravitate towards, and occasionally I'll dabble my toe into something else. But like, I know what I like, and I tend to kind of stick with that.
Cool. Have you also been diversifying what you do on? Because I noticed you started. Well, you were doing the Spawn cast, but you've gone back to live streaming on your own channel, your separate channel too. Is that a recent development? Are you on other platforms too? Twitch,
No,
Rumble? I don't know people.
I'm just on YouTube. Yeah, the second channel was actually going to be a wrestling channel, and that's how it
Yeah.
started out. And I was doing reviews of shows, and like 3 weeks into it, I was like, I hate this because I'm taking another hobby of mine and turning it into work, and I don't like that because I'm sitting there like jotting down
Okay.
notes and stuff, and it's like I couldn't sit back and just watch it as a consumer. I was doing it with a more critical eye, and I didn't like that. So I ended up scrapping that, and I was like, well, what am I going to do on this channel? And now it's just kind of like, I'll live stream on there, just hang out with people, talk to people. Like I don't really like play games on there because I can't really play a game and like engage with a chat at the same time. Like salute to people that
It's hard.
can.
It's hard to do. Yeah, I can't do it either.
Yeah, I need to.
Raya was pretty good at it for a while when you were doing that. It's difficult.
The problem is if you start messing up or something like that, then people are going to start talking shit. And it's like,
Yeah.
bro, I'm sitting here talking to you. I'm not really like 100% focused on the game here. So yeah, I ain't going to do that. But yeah, it's fun to interact with people, mingle with people. And then that channel, if something comes across my my eye, something catches my eye and I'm like, that's not really, super interesting, but it is something I want to talk about. I could throw it over there. And then, that's just that whole channel is just a bonus. It exists as a bonus for me.
See that I'm slowly crossing out one of my questions that I was going to do because you're like, I don't want to make another hobby part of my business. So
Right.
I was, as a fan of your content, I would love, and I think Rhea also, we tried to get you to comment on some movie topics at your panel at Too Many Games. I would love, which was a great, don't worry, Rhea, it was great. It was great. So I was going to try to encourage you to do movie topics or, streaming topics or something else, but you're like, no, I'm done making my hobbies part of my livelihood. You wouldn't be interested in that. Like you were going to do wrestling, so you wouldn't be interested. No one's going to push you into doing other types of on the other channels. Maybe like
I did one movie review on there because I was very angry at the movie that it wasted my time, and I thought it was the worst movie I'd ever seen. I don't even remember what the movie was.
That's what I was going to ask. Okay,
hold on, I gotta look it up. It was an M. Night Shyamalan, the movie Trap. I hated that.
That's a
movie.
recent one, right?
Yes, it was on Netflix, and I was like, oh, I like M. Night Shyamalan sometimes. Let me watch this. It was just horrible. It was horrible. Nothing made sense. The plot twist made no sense. The way everyone acted in the movie made no sense, and it made me so angry that I wasted like 2 hours watching that I just came downstairs, I just turned on the camera, and I just yelled at the camera for like 12 minutes, told M. Night to go.
That would have been himself.
A good. And then
I didn't see that. Is that video still up? Or
yeah, so it's on the second channel.
Oh, okay. I gotta check that out. Sure. I would like to see more movie reviews, even if you just watch a Netflix rant. I see what you mean by that movie for sure.
It bothered me. It bothered me so much.
I actually, you just gave me like a fresh question now that you brought up movies. Are you a fan at all of any game IPs being adapted into movies? Like, is there anyone that pops out that you are particularly, fond of?
Not really. I used to like, it was cool in the 90s to me because you had like the Mortal Kombat movie, you had the Street Fighter movie. These weren't big budget things. They weren't for a massive audience or stuff like that. And plus those games, paper thin stories. But now as time has gone on and you start to get these stories that are already so deep, so nuanced, so many different characters, and now you're adapting those to TV shows and movies and stuff like that. It's kind of like, well, I already know the story. I already know how this plays out. And if you change something, then people are going to be mad that you changed it. So it makes it hard for me. I don't really watch many modern movies. I haven't been to the movie theater since I was 18 because I had a free ticket from a friend to go see Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, and I enjoyed it. Although my friend ended up hooking up with the girl that I went to the movie with. But then
Oh,
I was kind of like, I mean, he did set me up with a free movie, so I can't be mad about that. And I enjoyed the movie. But yeah, I usually wait till stuff comes out. I did really like Beetlejuice because I was a
okay. That's
big
fun. Yeah.
big fan of the first one. Definitely kind of leery going into it because a lot of they're digging up corpses of nostalgic movies to try and just pump something out. And like when Jenny Ortega's character like met the boy, I was like, oh, they're gonna do some stupid thing like that. But then it like played into the story and the twist and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's great. I love it. Awesome. You didn't screw me over here. So I thoroughly enjoyed that movie.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. Thanks for sharing.
I mostly watch like old stuff that I like to see.
Yeah, I remember watching a stream and you were talking about I don't remember which, like an old sci-fi movie. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I like old sci-fi movies, old Batman movies.
You like retro, right? Are you any VHS in your
Yeah.
Oh, you do have VHS.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say that as a joke, but I love VHS.
Yeah, I have some. I have a lot of wrestling ones. And then I have some movies. The Batman Returns, Batman Forever, Jurassic Park, like Toy Story, Aladdin, like the 90s Disney movies. I got some of those too. I got a little mix.
You would still pop in the VHS and a VCR. You still have working VCR?
Yeah, I have a VCR. It's actually in the little arcade room. I have a CRT with a VCR in there because I didn't really have a spot for it. And so sometimes if I'm just like in there playing a game or something, I'll throw a movie on in there. And
I'm gonna if you come to too many games, I'm gonna have to bring you some tapes.
Yeah, I love VHS stuff. I think for like wrestling and stuff, it's extra important because like yes, you can watch the stuff on Peacock, but the stuff on Peacock is edited. Sometimes they change the music. Sometimes they blur signs and edit out segments that aren't acceptable in today's society and stuff like that. And it's like, well, you're changing the experience. You're changing fundamental things. So I'm a big fan of like VHS tapes for wrestling stuff.
Oh, cool. I'll have to pick you up some. My local shop, resale shop, has like 100 wrestling VHS tapes there. Nice. And I have to go through them. Oh, hey Bruce, my good pal Bruce there. Anyone wants to go check him out? There you go. All right, but I'm very happy to hear that. I'm big into hunting for my tapes now. That's got more joy out for me because in the past I used to hunt for video games, but and I still do. What?
It's too hard nowadays.
Oh no, because everyone knows what they're worth.
Yeah,
like that's the sort of the joy of the VHS tapes because you could still get a deal. Like it's very hard to get a deal with retro games anymore.
Yeah, I got them. There's a Goodwill on the way to my grandma's house, and I always pop in there and just comb through like the DVDs and the VHS tapes to see if there's anything I want. I think I picked up The Mummy last week when I was going to her house.
Okay. I had another question about now. If you had all the money in the world, what would be your perfect day? Would you be streaming on YouTube? Would you make videos? How would you spend your day? Your perfect day. Money's not an issue. You don't even have to think about money issues. What would you do? What would RGT do on his perfect day?
Wake up late, eat some pizza.
Pizza in the morning? Or when you wake up, not necessarily morning. Okay.
Yeah. I usually wake up around 10.
Okay.
So maybe around 11. I don't know. That's an interesting question because I don't know that much would change because like
You'd still be a content creator. Okay.
yeah, like I mean, like I have like my bank account now is way different than it was like 7 years ago. Like night and day difference. And like nothing's really changed. Like I still, wear like my one pair of jeans that I like and, a couple different t-shirts and sweatshirts and I don't like fancy foods as I still eat,
You're
similar.
not a foodie? Okay.
I mean, not like fancy foods, like, give me a burger or something, slice of pizza. I'm happy. I don't need to spend, a couple $100 at dinner or anything like that. So I don't know that much would really change, honestly.
You're already living like a millionaire. You're already living the dream then.
Yeah.
I said too, if I was, the only thing that would change for me is I wouldn't do my regular job, but I would be
Right.
on YouTube all the time. Like I'm going to be here until I'm in a nursing home streaming. I just I just enjoy talking to people online
Yeah,
and
it's
my
fun.
friends. Yeah, yeah. Um, we had some current gen questions. Ray, did you have one that you wanted to throw in there?
Yeah, definitely. So, I personally am a big fan of Nintendo Switch, but I oftentimes get a little fatigued on a lot of the coverage. And not to say that it's like, a negative, because I love to hear different people's takes on, the news and other like speculative, discussions on it. But I wanted to get your take on, just your general, I guess, overview of the landscape of not just like Switch talk. I'm kind of leaning in with that, but like just like gaming talk in general. Do you feel like there is something that could, sort of push the discussion forward? Is there something that you feel you're doing that is helping, keep it fresh and engaging? I just want to kind of hear your thoughts on, what is it that keeps the wheel spinning and keeps people in, so motivated to follow it. Although a lot of us get the same news around the same time and things like that.
I think it's kind of a twofold thing. When it comes to Switch specifically, I think a lot of people are just kind of a little burnt out with it. The system has lasted, I think, longer than people anticipated. And they're ready to see the next thing. And Nintendo kind of, is just stringing along uh their customers and they're like, oh yeah, we'll talk about it soon, but here's another 3DS game, or here's another Wii game, and give us $60. So I think right now interest in a lot of Switch, because it used to be like, comparatively speaking, when the Switch first came out, you could review some rando indie eShop game that nobody's ever heard of that cost you $5 and get crazy views on it. And everyone
Mhm.
was eating off that sort of stuff. But now it's just like nobody is as excited for it. They're ready for the next sort of thing. And then as far as the modern, talking about modern platforms and stuff like that, I would say it's become kind of crappy because of like you have like this culture war that's going on right now, and it seems like that's what everyone is hyper focused on, whether they're on one side of it or the other side of it. And the people in the middle, which are really the vast majority of people who just look at something and they analyze how I feel about this, if this interests me or not, those people are kind of lost in the shuffle, even though that's many people, because people like to feel like they belong to something. People like to feel, and it's just human nature. And they want to pick a side, but it seems like that is just over encompassing like all of gaming now. And I think it kind of sucks. And I mean, that's not to say that I haven't talked about stuff like that before, because I have. I talked about it even recently. But I feel like people make it their whole sort of personality. And it's all they're just hyper focused on it. It's either talking about the stuff that they hate all the time or talking about people who talk about stuff that they hate all the time. And nobody's really
Mhm.
talking necessarily about about what they like,
Yeah.
about what what they're enjoying, what they're having a good time with. It's a very hypercritical situation that, I think it'll change over time. It's just kind of the hot thing right now, and then something else will come along, and mindsets will shift and stuff like that.
I think you brought up a good point about the landscape being very personality driven and very much like, community driven behind that personality. And like you said, there is like, an abundance of similar coverage of, different, media and gaming news, but people tune in to hear, like, for example, your specific, take on those events. Although they are aware that they occurred, they want to hear what you have to say about them. So
Right.
I think that that's really something that I think you bring to the table as far as like what makes you unique as a content creator. I mean, the proof is right there, like you have like over 500,000 subscribers, and I'm sure just like a lot more people who probably watch your content who aren't subscribed yet for whatever reason. But yeah, I just kind of, I mean, like, I know that there are some, I like to say folks who like forget to smash the subscribe button, but yeah, I think like, as far as like my perception of like personality driven content creation, I do tend to lean more towards the folks who like yourself, you have like a very like, captivating screen presence and way to deliver information and how you speak that is very like, engaging. And I could tell that, you're very much like invested in what you're speaking about, although, it may be similar news that we've all, kind of picked up on and things like that. It's something that, like I said, we want to tune in to hear you talk about it. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to kind of shout that out too, because I think it's something that a lot of folks take for granted or don't really, have a lot of awareness of. Like, why is it that, these personalities on YouTube are kind of, the what is the word, conversation leaders and thought leaders of this discussion, because they are very captivating to a lot of people. So I just wanted to clap you up for that.
Well, thank you. But yeah, like, you have people like Spawn Wave, and like him and I are, we're complete polar. We'll talk about the same thing, but he's more like stoic and just, oh, this is what it is. What do you think about it? Whereas I'll be like, this is what it is, and this is what I think about it. And like, and that could be off-putting to some people. People disagree with me all the time. That's what I tell people that watch my videos. I'm like, if you don't agree with me, like, that's fine. Like, I don't want a bunch of people that watch me that just agree with me on every single thing, because that's boring to me. Like, not to say that I like conflict or confrontation, but it's a part of life, and it's been a part of my life for a very long time. So, that's why I get myself, in trouble sometimes, because I'll say the wrong thing to the wrong person on Twitter or make a video and say something out of pocket. And it's just like, whatever, like,
I actually think you handle interactions with even critiques of other YouTubers way better than a lot of us out there. I've made mistakes in the past. You do, I've seen you criticize, but you do it lightly and you move on. People like make 20 videos on the same person. It's like, oh boy,
that's such a weird.
Well, I was into that before, but I've changed. I've changed.
I mean, I'll talk if I have an interaction with someone that I think will make, like, I remember when Adam Sessler and I got into it on Twitter, and I knew that I like struck a nerve with him, and seeing people that don't even, people on his Twitter feed that didn't follow me were agreeing with what I was saying. I was like, well, I kind of got something here. And so like, I'll do something like that, but like, I don't know. I don't like to hyper focus on what the next man is doing, because it's just kind of like, do your own thing. And in my opinion, if your whole content is contingent on just talking about other people, maybe you're not that interesting, because you're just trying to
fair.
You're punching up and you're succeeding. But what happens if you end up becoming up? How are you going to handle, people constantly punching at you? So it's always fun to see.
Yeah. Talking about the Switch and Switch 2, some of your recent vids were about the leaks of potential controller con 2s, screen protector, case for the Switch 2. So my thoughts on this, because I do love Nintendo. I love how they think out of the box on previous consoles. is the Switch 2 too boring and too late? Like they waited too long, and it's really what I mean by that is if the leaks are accurate with the controller cons, it's really just a slightly upgraded controller con, better screen, maybe 4K docked. I don't know if it'll do that undocked, and upscaled games. It potentially $70 price tag because they tried that with the Legend of Zelda. Is that the future of the Nintendo console? Do you think that could soften people's excitement for the next Switch if it's just what we thought it was with no extra oomph, like it's just an upgraded Switch?
I don't know, because the success of the Switch was that it was very different than what we had seen before. Before the handheld mini PCs that were a dime a dozen, this, that, or the other. It came out in a perfect time. Do I think the successor is going to outsell the current one? No, I don't. Much like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, when you look at the sales of those, Tears of the Kingdom is never going to catch up to Breath of the Wild. That doesn't mean that Tears of the Kingdom is worse than that or that was a bad game. It still sold extremely well. It's still selling extremely well. The difference is with Breath of the Wild, you had that wow factor. This is completely different. I've never seen a Zelda game like this before. And people bought that game. And when people bought that game, most of them really enjoyed it. But there were some people that were like, I kind of prefer the traditional style. And then once you eliminate that wow factor and you see that Tears of the Kingdom is really an extension of Breath of the Wild, kind of bigger, badder, more things to do, those people that still didn't like the style of the game, they're not going to come back to it because it's very similar. It's exactly, the same sort of structure that Breath of the Wild had, just like I said, bigger. So I think a vast majority of people do want the Switch 2 to play it safe because
They do. Okay.
I think so because I mean that's what I want. If you ask
That
me
is what you want.
personally,
Okay.
I just want the same system better. I want better visual fidelity. I want a better eShop. I want, better controller options, better games, more third-party games and stuff like that. This is a good generation to potentially, I think, play it safe because you don't want
Okay.
another situation where you kind of miss the mark. I think the Switch 2 will sell very well. I think there will be initial hype with it. And really, software sells hardware. No matter what Xbox likes to say, great software will sell hardware. And I think they're going to come out guns blazing with this system for like the first year. I think it's going to be very similar to how the first year of the Switch was, where it was just like boom, 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 boom. Like this game, boom, here you go. Like just nonstop things. But the difference is going to be now there's going to be third parties alongside of it.
Cool. Yeah, the third party support should really increase in the next system. I think Ray was going to add something, but I did want to add one more thing there. What it would be your biggest concern with the Switch 2? Mine, for example, was just based off your recent vid with the Donkey Kong Country. It's a 3DS basic port, $60. Now they're fine. They're probably going to be fine with doing 70 price tag for remasters and reissues, and not a lot of new games. They're going to say, "Oh, now it's 4K Mario in 4K." That's going to be the song. That's my biggest fear for the Switch 2.
And I mean, there is the chance of that, but I think the fact that it has backwards compatibility, that kind of softens the blow a little bit, I feel.
Okay.
I think that, with backwards compatibility, I think there's a better chance that you won't see things like that. Especially considering, like, I think the reason why we're seeing so many remakes, remasters right now is because it is the end. Traditionally, Nintendo platforms don't last this long. There's never been one. This is the longest lasting Nintendo platform by far. And I think this is just kind of, keeping it afloat. Here's some smaller games. Here's some remakes and remasters. I'm not buying Donkey Kong. I think that's way overpriced. But the problem is people still people still buy it, man. Like that game will probably outsell 90% of the games that come out in 2025 that have 15 times the budget that game has.
We didn't know
And
how good we had it with the virtual console. It seems like they're really reluctant to put anything past Game Boy Advance and Super Nintendo on there on their shop.
yeah,
We should have GameCube on there by now.
I guess. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Too much of a market though. They're realizing that people will buy these games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that actually goes into one of the questions I was super interested to get your take on. So I'm really passionate about, game preservation, history, and archiving, accessibility, things like that. That's really something that I advocate hardcore for all the time. And as far as like being able to, like y'all have mentioned, being able to access like, these older forms of media, and a lot of that, access is being taken away from us for one reason or another. I wanted to get your thoughts, RGT, on what is like your general take on, some of the flaws in that system, or what are some of the benefits in your opinion?
I think right now game preservation sucks. Everything gets delisted. There's licensing issues, and it's not going to get better anytime soon. And that is why I, much like Mr. Sujana, who's in the chat, are big fans of emulation, because emulation is very important. EverDrives are very important. Having access to these games are very important because, the Video Game History Foundation, I think, is I called it the Video Game Preservation Society for so long that's just what I call it now. Good in theory, but I honestly think it's never going to work. You just saw what happened when they took it to the courts, and the government was like, nah, it's different. Sorry. And it's like, well, where do you go from here? Like, it's a great idea in theory. And there's YouTube channels that are dedicated to it. I know Accursed Farms is a big proponent of, the always online games, and when those games kind of disappear and stuff like that, what are you supposed to do? But like, even those, like, think of how many MMOs have come and gone where you're never going to be able, like the Matrix MMO. I would have loved to have played that. I didn't have a computer at the time that would be able to play that, but I'm never going to be able to play that game. That game is never going to come back. And I think, the whole thing is like, every other form of entertainment is much more established than video games is. Movies, much more established. TV shows, much more established. Music, much more established. Video games was kind of this reckless thing that just came out in like the 70s. Nobody knew what they were doing. The 80s, it was just, give the kids some video games. The 90s, it started to expand and stuff like that. So I don't think many companies that were making games really thought about, the future of how they were going to be. And, but yeah, long story short, like I'm huge on emulation. I'm huge on EverDrives and stuff like that. Being able to play original hardware if you want to. Granted, I do like the HDMI modifications. I mean, because really the last 6 months, I've just been playing N64. I've been playing my N64. I got an HDMI modded N64, and I love that thing. I have an EverDrive cartridge for it. If you have an EverDrive cartridge, you can also load NES, Game Boy Color, and even some Super Nintendo games on there. And so, like, whenever like Nintendo's like, oh, here's Donkey Kong Land 3 for the Game Boy on Nintendo Switch Online, I'm like, why am I going to play that? I got it on my N64, and I got a color palette upgrade on it because you could download a patch for it. Like, these companies, some companies, they just protect their IP way too much. And Nintendo is definitely very guilty of that, because if you don't offer me a way to give you money for your product that will benefit you, what do you care? What do you care? Why do you care if I buy it from a video game store for $100 and you don't see a cent of it? Like, that's Nintendo's mentality. They say, we'll go buy it from Amazon or something like that. And it's like, well, why? Like, you're not making money from it.
I think that's one of the biggest things for me that I've been really critical of, although I will fully admit Nintendo has direct access to my bank account. Like, my direct deposit goes straight to, Nintendo most of the time. And I am a hardcore game collector for the Switch. I do that because it's just that, tactile feeling of having something that I own in my hand. And for a lot of folks, some folks, don't really understand it because they're like, well, I downloaded the game onto my hard drive, it's there and I have backups, blah, blah, blah. And I am just like, that's awesome, dude. I am going to hold on to my cartridges in my hand, like,
Right.
for dear life, like they're my children, because something about it, like I said, it's that visceral feeling of wanting to, commemorate your memories with a story or something that really resonated with you in a physical form. Like a lot of people have, like, antiques or family heirlooms and things like that. I have a shit ton of Switch games that, I will trade in all my family heirlooms for before I give those up. So I just kind of wanted to get your, thoughts around like collecting physical media, because obviously you're very prolific in what you have behind you in your room right now, and some folks even brought it up in the chat. So what is it that makes you prioritize collecting one thing or another?
Well, now it's very different because I did sell like 90% of my collection.
Phoenix
And
resale got it.
Phoenix resale got it. He came, he stayed at my house. We got a pizza, and
Okay.
then we loaded up the truck the next morning. I did notice he did not shower before his voyage.
That's something to notice. Yeah.
Well, see, I'm the type of person where if I do not shower when I wake up, don't bother me, because I'm just going to go back to
Okay.
bed and I'm not going to do anything. If I do not shower, I am worthless. So I
Okay.
noticed that, and I was like, because I got him a nice little towel to use. It was clean. But yeah, I just decided, and a lot of people thought it was because like I had a big ass hospital bill, which it had nothing to do with that. Like I wanted more room down here. A lot of stuff was just sitting in totes and stuff like that. And it was just like, like I don't have an emotional attachment to Top Gun on the NES. Why do I have this? I don't have an emotional attachment to stuff like that. So now, like just about every physical game that I have that is retro, like I remember playing it as a kid, or I have a story behind it.
Cool.
But I mean, I do buy things here and there if something like really interests me. But I have a bunch of hard drives. I have a bunch of computers that can upscale all these games and stuff and give me better experiences that I can, potentially on original hardware. But that's not to say I don't appreciate original hardware. I just beat Ocarina of Time on my HDMI modded N64, and I don't really know why. I just felt like playing it on there. So,
Awesome.
it kind of depends. It kind of depends on how my mood is.
Cool. Yeah,
Oh,
oh, go ahead.
sorry. Yeah, Max, I'll let you finish it before I get into the next topic.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I mainly collect movies now. I still collect 360 because that's a rewarding system. You could still find some deals, even though the last couple years there's been a little bit of a craze with the shop going down. But I still get joy out of that. But mainly, and I sold off my cartridges basically because the Genesis. I had the Genesis on every single system collection. Genesis, yeah, I have it like 4 times.
I mean, yeah, and so many of these games are just like worth a bunch of money. So like, why not get some money? And I will say, I was very shocked at how, because people say, why did you sell it to Phoenix resale? Blah blah. How could you do that? And I'm like, you know how I could do that? Because he had money. A lot
Oh
of these
yeah.
people don't have money.
If you separated things and sold it piece by piece, it would monopolize your time. And
Dude, I would no. I was talking with like 5 or 6 different people, and I was inventorying everything. And I got up to a point where I finally inventoried all of just the games. And I sent a message to each one of those 5 people. I said, this is the price charting for just the games. No systems. I'm talking, I had a Panasonic Q, I had a Sega CDX and stuff like that. I was like, I haven't done any systems. If you make me an offer now and I like the offer, I'm done inventorying. If you don't make me an offer, then this price is just going to keep going higher. And everyone backed out except for him. He made a good offer, and I was like, perfect. Come pick it up.
Okay, cool. Easy transaction. So that's
Oh,
great.
yeah. Super simple.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of pivot back to what you were talking about as far as like your niche interests and, some of the things that you enjoy covering that maybe you don't oftentimes get to chat about, but you're expanding your bandwidth to do so like, in written form. So I definitely want to hear, how you started out like as far as your interest in well, you kind of already gave us an idea of like what your experience is in a writer. You're very prolific on gaming history already, but what made you want to go into printed media, like as a next step forward?
That was actually a very random thing. I was literally sitting on the couch and I was like, I'm going to write a book about the Sega 32X. And I remember I messaged Jason from Nintendo Enthusiast. I was like, hey, I'm going to write a book on the Sega 32X. He was like, why? I was like, I'm just bored. Like, I'm bored. I think it'd be cool. And I remember I sent like a very crude drawing of how it was going to be. And he was like, this looks like a toddler did it. And I'm like, yeah. And he was like, I actually have some book editing software. I'm like, why do you have that? He's like, I don't really
He
know.
has everything.
He's like, I don't really know. He's like, you want to try it? I was like, yeah, sure. And then we just came up we came up with the idea, and I just wrote everything. He designed everything, and we tweaked it, and then we put it out. And my whole thing was, I didn't care if it made, like, some people write books to make money because that's their main source of income. My whole thing is, as long as I'm breaking even, I am happy. And we broke even on the pre-orders of the 32X book, and that, I thought that was it. I thought that was just a one and done thing. But then earlier this year, I was like, I want to write a book on N64 wrestling games. And so I hit up Jason again, and he was like, well, I'm busy, but really I didn't do much of your book. This other girl did, and I just took the credit for it. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, so I'll just put you in contact with her. And so then I started working with her, and she was definitely a lot more talented than Jason was as far as like graphic design and stuff. Cause like the 32X book is fine and it has some nice sections in it, but like her style was just very different. And like it was just it was very easy because all I had to do was write everything, come up with ideas. I interviewed a couple different people and get screenshots for the game, and threw it all into a Google Drive, and then she just worked her magic, and then it ended up coming out, I think, better than I expected it to. And yeah, like it's a weird thing where like that's just kind of how I am. Like I'll get an idea and then I'm going to do that idea. Like,
Mhm.
and so it's very sporadic. Like, will I write another book? I don't intend to, but I might. Like it just depends. Like if something else kind of catches my eye or something I think is interesting to me, like then I'll do it again. But yeah, it's nothing that's ever like really planned out or anything. It's very, very spur of the moment.
Mhm. And towards the end of this stream here, I was gonna at least gift one book of your wrestling one. So it may be people that ask questions already. Once we go through that, if or did you have a randomizer, Ray, or they just I want to ask RGT if he picks one of the question people that ask the question to give a book, or someone from the chat you could pick RGT if that's good.
Yeah, whichever
Towards
works.
towards the end, and then you'll have to contact me on X so I could send you the copy. Okay. I did have another next gen and current gen. Your frustration with current gen and predictions for next gen. I wanted to get that topic in. I just to give you my take on it too. I think we've reached the point where gameplay and games matter, really. You could have the most high powered console. I think we've got to the point where Sony and Microsoft have pushed. These consoles are getting more expensive. Who knows how expensive it's going to be next year? We don't know with potential tariffs and stuff for importing. We just don't know. And the rumors about, well, we do think that the Switch 2 is going to be another handheld dock situation. The prevalence of like Rogue Ally and Steam Deck. There's rumors that PlayStation and that Microsoft may be doing a handheld thing too. Do you think we've reached the point where pushing the graphics is no longer important? And I think this is going to be the most pivotal generation because I do think they have to go more towards Nintendo route. Think outside of the box, games, taking your library with you. and very few games like the Pro. I can't justify a Pro. There's very, very few games that justify the PS5 or Series X right now that actually tap the potential, the high. Do you think we're at that point with
Yeah.
next gen year predictions, how it's going to go for next gen?
No, I think we're totally at the age of diminishing returns. I mean, so many cross-generational games from the PS4 to the PS5. Most of the PS5 games that weren't cross-generational, you're kind of like, this probably could have been cross-generational. You know, the power of the SSD. It's the only way to get the new Ratchet and Clank. Well, how'd you put it on Steam? It seems like you figured that out. You could have easily put that on PS4. You know, it's very interesting how everything is playing out, because now you have like these long gaps for games. You have games that have such a high budget that if they don't sell, you know, millions and millions of copies, the studio fails and stuff like that. Like, I think we're getting to a point where I think the industry is going to have to do like almost a soft reset. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've been saying that we are in the middle of a gaming crash of sorts, not comparative to 1983, because obviously it was very different circumstances. But when, you know, think of how many games colossally failed this year, how many studios got shut down, how many layoffs there were, unprecedented numbers. Nothing like we've ever seen before. We've never seen a situation like Concord before. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I don't think it'll affect all companies in the same way, but there's going to have to be some sort of changes going about. And I don't necessarily know what those changes could potentially be. It's it's just it's very interesting. You know, I think you're going to start to see smaller projects from bigger companies.
I hope so. Yeah.
But I also think in the same breath, you are going to see more remakes and remasters, because you're not remaking or remastering a game that sold like crap. Like, you're remaking and remastering games that people really want and games that people really loved. And, you know, I think there's going to be more of that. It's going to be very interesting next couple of years, I think, as far as, because, you know, like you said, you have the whole handheld side of things potentially looming, but then it's like, well, what is Xbox doing? Are they a third party company? Am I buying an Xbox, or do I already have an Xbox if everything is an Xbox? You know, PlayStation is still selling consoles, but their software sales haven't really been all that crazy at all. So I don't know. I don't know. I think it's kind of, no pun intended, uncharted territory, but I think you're going to see a lot more flies fall before this is all said and done.
Cool. I wanted to do another part of that question. If they don't do something different, if Microsoft and PlayStation just do what they've been doing, pushing graphics capabilities, I for one think that the consumers aren't going to bite this time. They're like, okay, I bought into this, was $500-$600 this current gen. I still don't feel like I'm fulfilled with this generation. I don't think it's going to work next time if they just say, oh, this is more high powered, ray tracing is even better. You know, I don't feel people are going to buy it if it's just that.
I mean, because really, like I said before, you know, software sells hardware, and if you don't have the software to coincide along the hardware, then what's the point of people upgrading? You know, I think it's way too early to be talking about successors to the PS5 and the Xbox Series, because, I mean, have these consoles really gotten started? Have we seen anything that's a wow factor with these consoles? To me, I haven't, you know, and I think a lot of people feel that way as well. But, you know, alternatively, you have these, you know, it's very nuanced. It's very nuanced, because I feel like we also have these, what I like to call hype beasts in the community. And
Mhm.
it's becoming a thing where everything is great. You know, everything is awesome. And because of whatever reason it is, maybe they don't want to lose access to stuff like that. But I posed this question to Spawnwave, and amazingly, it left him silent. And if you know anything about that man, he will justify anything in the world. But I asked him, I said, because it was about the Avowed previews. He's like, oh, the Avowed previews are looking really good. And I was like, John, when was the last time that we saw a big game that had a preview event where the previews were negative, where there were concerns about the game? And he just sat there and he was like, I don't know. I was like, exactly. You don't know. Yet we've had games like Concord. Yet we've had games like the freaking Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah.
Games that had fundamental problems that you could see within a few minutes of playing it. Games that had major issues within a few minutes of playing it. Yet every single preview event is always positive. Like I feel like there are core problems within the industry. You know, you heard about with Concord failing, it was because of a hype beast mentality of oh, this is great. No criticisms, no questions, no nothing, accept it sort of situation. And that is verified as one of the reasons why it failed. And I think that's an even bigger problem than people realize. You know, just this whole mindset thing. And then you start to look at, well, who owns the major gaming media sites now? And you start to see that bubble is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And where it used to be a lot of places were independent people, they were all independent of each other. Now most of these websites are owned by the same people. Mm-hmm. And so once again, the bubble is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. So you get these people that hype up these games, and then the games don't meet expectations, or the games are bad. But those people never take accountability. They never say, "Oh yeah, well I got that wrong." They move on to the next thing. It's like figure drawing says, the overly positive grifters. Like when people say grifters, they immediately think of like the whole everything is woke people, but they don't realize that there are many, many types of grifters. The positivity grifters on social media that have their check mark on Twitter, they're making the same money that the anti-woke grifters are. They're making the same money that the nothing is woke grifters are. It's two sides of the same coin with these things. And I think that is something that flies way under the radar with a lot of, you know, just the way that information is distributed to gamers. And I think that's why, you know, YouTube is important, because, you know, there are people that are not a part of a bigger system, that are independent people that have independent thoughts. And sometimes, you know, I remember specifically before the launch of Cyberpunk on consoles, I said, where is the footage of this game on PS4 and Xbox One? Why have we not seen any footage of that? That is very suspect, especially considering this company, CD Projekt Red, is more known for their PC side of things. Why haven't we seen anything? That video got so many views and downvoted to hell. It was like 20% upvotes, 80% downvote. How dare you?
I love when that happens.
All of the preview said it was great. And then in retrospect, when it came out and it was a broken, buggy mess on the console side of things, all of a sudden it started to balance out, and people came back. I'm sorry that I was mean to you. It's like, I don't care, but you know, I was just posing a question because I thought it was very weird that was the case. And you know, it's a whole big thing, especially when you look at these preview events and people are getting flown out to them. They're getting comped for their hotel, comp for their meals. Oh, this isn't a paid thing. I mean, maybe it's not paid in terms of them handing you money and saying promote this, but it's paid in the sense that everything is comped. You're getting early access to something. That early access is then going to make you money. So, you know, it's very, very interesting. And it's something that I notice all the time.
Okay. So there are a lot of viewers on YouTube and social media that have lost confidence in the mainstream reporting and critique. And you feel that too, that you feel, from what you're saying, you feel that it's impacted so much that the games have started to slide too. potentially.
Because
Okay, that's a factor.
you have all these people telling you your game's great, you're so great, this is great. And then where are those people when that game isn't great? Where are those people when that game flops? Where are those people when that game costs thousands of people their jobs? They
Mhm.
think that everything is positive, everything is great, is helping, when in actuality, if somebody would have said, hey, I'm not too sure about this. Maybe this isn't exactly the move. Maybe you could have potentially helped save something with that by being a little bit more honest. But then you get the whole thing where people are scared to have their access cut off. Like
Mhm.
Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they don't send me anything. They don't send me games. They
I
don't
know
send me review
Nintendo's not
codes.
sending
Oh
anything.
yeah, no.
If Nintendo sends you something, it's probably not good.
Yeah, I'd rather not hear from them.
Yes.
Yeah, like a lot of major companies don't send me anything, and like I'm fine with that. I don't care because I'll just buy it on my own time. But people don't realize that there is financial gain within getting early access to stuff. Because if you're one of the first few people to review a game because you got a review copy of that game, people are going to be very interested in that. People are going to be gravitating towards that review because you're one of the first people out there. So while the compensation might not be clear, there always is some sort of thing kind of behind it. I feel, I remember, I got early access to No More Heroes 3, and they were like, well, we want everyone who got access to this game to send a special congratulations message to Suda51. So send us a little video. And I did. I sent the video. And then I played the game and I was like, oh, this game sucks. I don't like this game at all. And then I just had to bury it. I was like, yeah, happy birthday, Suda. Oh, by the way, your game, that's a piece of shit right there. And like, it is what it is, man. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens with the monetary side of things. I've had a company, a very popular game, reach out to me and wanted to do a dedicated video. And I was like, okay, well, here's my idea. I finally play your game because I've never played this and I probably wouldn't play it unless you reached out to me to do this. And they were like, yeah, but we have this new map and we really want to show off the new map. And it's like, I was like, well, okay, but I'm not familiar with the old map. So I think my idea might be a little bit better. And they literally said to me, they said, well, we'll give you an account that has access to the new map with a character that's already leveled up and stuff like that. So you could just jump into it and you could say that you used a friend's account. And I was like,
Mm.
I don't like that. And
Yeah.
it was a lot of money that they were offering me. And I was just like, nah, I can't do it. I'm sorry. Like it didn't feel right to me,
Your
like
your instincts are good. I'm not going to comment too much on, but one of the biggest lessons I've learned is getting too close to access in the past, and I would like to keep my distance from companies, and I think your instincts are really spot on that.
yeah.
Especially that's a career ender right there. If
Yeah.
you're talking about this won't last forever, some of the situations that happen when you get too close to companies, oh boy,
Yeah.
they don't care when stuff happens to your channel or things
No.
don't look good. They're
No, they don't.
gone. They're like, okay, bye.
Good old Tommy. Hey, I talked to him too, man. That dude's
Okay.
wild, dude. I remember, not to veer off topic, I lived in a small town before I bought this place, and he wanted to send me a t-shirt. And he was like, oh, you live there? I totally dated a girl from there. I'm like, no, you didn't. Why would you say that? You did not date a girl from this town, Thomas. But yeah, he's a character.
Let me see. Did you have a question, Rhea, that you wanted to prepare before we should get to the viewer questions?
No, I'm just so grateful for the chat,
Yes.
showing up and showing out, dropping some like banger questions that we were able to, highlight. And yeah, Max, if you want to take it from here, I'm down.
Sure. So we'll start going to the viewer questions because I don't want to monopolize too much of your time, Sean.
Yeah.
But I did have one more question that I like to ask all our people we interview is, can you give a recommendation of something that's in your playlist, watch list, game list, or bucket list? Something that you'd like to do in life, something that's in your watch list on when you watch your old movies, a game that you want to get to, maybe a hidden gem of anything, any pop culture. Like, do you like comics at all? Anything like that you want to?
I never really got into comics. You had to buy too many of them. I always thought the death and return of Superman was kind of cool though, because I remember
That's right.
being a kid and seeing that like comic cover, and I was like, "Whoa, this is cool." Because like Superman, he kind of fell off a little bit, but then like right after that, they started doing the Lois and Clark with Dean Cain, and that became super popular. So a movie, definitely The Thing from Another World. It's available on Tubi. If you have Tubi,
Okay.
everyone should have Tubi. It's a movie from I think 1958. It's kind of what The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, was inspired by. And it's a really good movie. And even though it's old, it holds up very, very well. And then a hidden gem game. Let me think of something that I really like that I've been playing.
Oh, I just thought of one for me.
What?
Have you played Disney Speedstorm?
No.
Are you opposed to it?
I mean, I've played Mickey's Magical Racing on the N64, which should
you like Mario Kart, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Not enough people they're gonna have Tron. You like Tron? They're gonna have a Tron season.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's all right. No one listens to me about Speedstorm. I have to beg all my friends to play it. It's a fun game.
I remember when it came out. It was it's free to start, right? But you have to buy stuff with it.
Oh, I take look at our pal CGH here. Can you convince Max to start supporting live service games? I say live service games support the industry, even if you don't like it. And I have a goal with live service games to play them and grind as much as possible and not pay them anything. So that's like an added thing that I like to do. So Speedstorm, the only time I ever bought anything was for early access. It was like $30 because I wanted to play it so bad. But that came out like a year. It was like 6 months before it went free to play for everybody. And then I've never spent anything since. I've got all the characters, all the tracks.
They got you though. They
so
got that dirty. They got that dirty. Like, yes, sir. No, thank you very much.
Well, if you're talking about like 2 days early access, I'm like, that's bullshit. But if you're talking about like 6 months before it goes free, I'm like, yeah, I'll do that.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I almost did that with Indiana Jones. But the reviews came out so late because I think it's $30. You get it early access. And I told John yesterday, I was like, why didn't the reviews come out like a week before the game came out? Because if that would have happened, then I probably would have bought it. Like, but now it's just like, oh, I'll just wait till Sunday. Play it on Game Pass.
Yeah, I'm downloading it now as we speak. Let me see. We'll go through some questions here. Our good pal Cyrus, shout out to Cyrus. I almost was going to ask. It's so hard to get everything we want to talk about in with just 2 people and you, Sean. But Cyrus is a great guy. I think you've talked with him before.
Yep.
He asks if you have regrets about selling anything. Maybe selling anything in that big pile to Phoenix resale that you regret giving selling them, or you're good.
Not really, because I mean, worst case, if I really regret something, I can always just buy it back. Like, I mean, really, I show it on a video. It's a tax write-off. Who cares? Like, I need tax write-offs. My accountant tells me that all the time. So no.
Oh, you need to be one of those YouTubers that sells off the collection starting from square one over again.
No, I'll never do that. I don't have the patience for that sort of stuff.
Rebuilding my collection.
Yeah, I mean,
some people have that for a week apart. I sold off my collection the next week, starting from square one. Jordan, come join.
That's why you need those tax write-offs.
Yeah.
But no, I don't regret anything, honestly. Like, what I wanted to keep, I kept. And the other stuff, hey, somebody else can enjoy it.
If we're going to take turns, Ray, you could read this next one to him if you would like.
Sure. Question for the esteemed panelist. Is RGT still mad at Nintendo for their pricing structure? If so, why? Emulation is easy, easy times easy, and super cheap.
Yes, I am, because average people don't like to mess with emulation, even if it is super easy and super cheap. That's why emulation videos tend to do very well, because most people are very intimidated by emulation. And so, yes, I do think that some of their pricing is ridiculous. $60 for Donkey Kong Returns 3DS upscaled is ridiculous, especially considering the game on the Wii was $50 and then it was 40 on the 3DS, and you're not adding in any new content. But like I say, they get away with it because people buy it. So, I could be mad all I like, but I also understand the other side of the coin is the reason why it's 60 is because people will buy it for 60. Now, I do wish it was more uniform. You had something like Metroid Prime Remastered come out at 40, Mario versus Donkey Kong come out at 50. This comes out at 60. So it's like, well, what kind of determines it? Because I would think a GameCube game and a Game Boy Advance game would take more work than a 3DS game, because if you've ever upscaled a 3DS game, it already looks fantastic. Like Metroid Samus Returns upscaled to like 4K is insanely good. So there's not a lot of work tied to it, but it's a buyer's market, and if people are buying it, you know.
Thank you. JCGP 85. RGT, Mets or Yankees? Please don't say Yankees. I don't want to stop loving you, man.
I'm not super into baseball, but if I had to pick, I would pick the Mets because their colors are more like the Knicks.
Okay. Ray, if you'd like to do that one.
Yeah, I know we just answered this, or sorry, RGT, you might have answered this a little bit in our discussion up until now. But are there any additional thoughts you want to add to Switch 2 and Nintendo pricing overall?
I think the Switch 2 should be $400. I don't think you want to. I don't think you want to eclipse the $400 mark. Especially considering you made a lot of money on the Switch by never really decreasing the price of it, and we all know that those components that you're using to make them are not the same price that they were in 2017. So I would hope that they come in 350 to 400. I think if you do, you set yourself up for success. I think if you go above that $400 mark, things start to get a little bit murky.
I agree. Yeah, I think that would be perfect. If it's 400 and they have like a new game instead of a remaster to promote, like a new Mario Kart, then I'm like, okay, maybe I want to get this day one. But if it's past that, I'll do these next two real quick. So my pal Bruce says, how do you handle trolls and haters?
You just kind of ignore them, because what I do is, like, I look at me and what I have and what I've created, and then I compare it to them. And I'm like, bro, come on. Like, no, like, just stop. Like, so it is annoying, and sometimes I am confrontational with it, but in the same breath, it's like, there's a reason why they're lashing out at you, just being some random person on the internet that they're just completely obsessed with. So, a hate watch is still a watch. It still puts money in my pocket. So, hey, thanks.
Fair enough. That's a lesson I had to learn, is just ignore stuff.
Yeah.
And then our pal Rhea here, big fan of Angry Video Game Nerd. What does, from Figure Drawing again, and we met Angry Video Game Nerd to the same convention. And I hope you're going. I know you said you're probably going to go. We really hope you're going to go to too many games this year.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay. What does RGT think of current Angry Video Game Nerd versus OG Angry Video Game Nerd?
You watched a guy put 20 years of his life into YouTube. So obviously he's not going to be the same sort of person that he was 20 years ago. and with money and success comes, different things. And that's another thing to kind of factor into it. I think he's just, because he's really nothing like his persona in real life, but people like thought that it wasn't an act. Like at first they thought, oh, this dude's really pissed off at these games. And then, I think that kind of maybe changed people's mindsets. Like, oh, he's just going through the motions now, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, maybe it's not the same fire and desire as it used to be, but I mean, he's also 20 years older. He's got, a family. He's got this, that, or the other going on. So, he's in a different place in life. I still think, he does good stuff. It's still funny. Some episodes are better than others. And if you really just like the old stuff's still there for you.
Cool. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for him. Yeah, let me see here. And we watched, the only thing I don't have respect for is that movie. Oh my God. We watched the movie. No, I'm just kidding. I respect that he did it, but I'm like, oh, I do not want to watch this again. Even though it's hard to watch.
It's not very good.
I respect that he did it. Okay, so Ray, if you want to handle this one here.
Sure. So our friend Anthony Beltry asks, do y'all think Marvel Rivals will be on the Switch too?
Yes, it seems like that's a very, it's got a really strong start. It's a game that's going to rely on community support. And I think that because of that, they'll want to put it on as many platforms as possible when the time comes. And I think that more than likely will show up.
Are you okay with live service games? I know there's a lot of critics in the community and like viewers and consumers are like, oh, live service game. I'm okay with it personally. I think it keeps the industry afloat.
I wouldn't say I'm completely against it. But I don't like, I'm still not going to play a game just because, it's a live service thing where you can get it in for free if it doesn't interest me, I give the responsibility to the other people to keep it afloat with monetary stuff. But I do think a lot of companies do rely too much on live service games. And you've seen so many live service games completely fail because everyone wants to chase that Fortnite high without realizing that there's a better chance of your game failing than your game being the next Fortnite.
Mm-hmm. I will cover this next one here. Figure drawing got a lot of questions in. What does RGT think about? I didn't know this. I don't know if you want to comment on this. I have no. John killing off live Spawn Wave. I didn't know that.
Well, the Spawn cast used to be Saturday nights live all the time, and honestly, if you really want to know, it's because of the dickhead comments.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some people on the show aren't, hardened old grizzled veterans of stuff, and things affect different people in different ways. So when you constantly are saying, oh, this person doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, then they don't want to show up for the show. I'll tell you to kiss my ass and I'll put a foot in your face. But a lot of other people are not like that,
Okay.
That
people different,
and people will say, oh, well, you gotta you gotta be able to handle criticisms like that. There's difference between criticism being like, oh, this person's a fucking idiot. Like, it's different things, different strokes for different folks. So that was really one of the main reasons was a lot of people were tired of, and I always say
it's draining.
Yeah. I told, I always tell John, I'm like, you got a toxic community, pal. Look at this. But I mean, it happens when you're a larger channel and, some people just got tired of it. So we moved to a recorded show for it.
Okay. I respect that. Yeah.
And plus like Saturday nights, like, yes, John and we're not doing anything, but like other people have other things going on too. They have social lives or they're doing this, that, or the other. So
there's some in your crew that are part-timer YouTubers too, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's hard to manage. Yeah. I get that for sure. Let me see here. Mr. Sonwo, if you want to ask that, Rhea.
Mr. Sajano, yeah, big fan of his as well. What would be an appropriate name for the Switch 2? Super Switch, New Switch U?
I would like Super Switch.
Me too.
I think that gets the point across. You have some similar marketing toward Super Nintendo because if we're under the assumption that this is just a beefed up Switch, I mean, really, that's what the Super Nintendo was. Nintendo didn't really start getting weird until the N64, where they started to go against the grain a little bit more. So I think that would be a good name.
Ooh. Figure drawing. I'll read two, and because I don't want to take up too much of your time. Figure drawing again. Entire panel question: what seems more interesting in regards to Nintendo Switch Online? Mario Kart Double Dash Online, F-Zero GX Online, both with play and DLC. I think Nintendo's intentionally holding off on GameCube so that on the Switch 2 they could sell it to you at a premium, and I don't think it's going to make the online. Honestly, I'm sorry to answer ahead of you, RG. That was for you. Go ahead, RJ.
I mean, that's kind of similar. I think GameCube, they're very hesitant on it, which actually poses a very interesting question because it seems like you're kind of tapping out of available games when it comes to third-party companies that they're wanting to put on your service. Obviously, you have like really 2 games left on the N64 with the horrible Donkey Kong 64 and the amazing Diddy Kong Racing. But like, how do you keep it going? What are you going to add? What's the incentive going to be? And I think that's a question that Nintendo has that nobody really knows the answer to. And it would make sense for it to be GameCube, but sometimes the most logical thing isn't what Nintendo does.
Mm-hmm. I'll go through some of these real quick because you already answered some of them. We commented on, thank you, CJH. We commented live service games, and he's been critical of people with access for sure. Mr. Memes, the memes of destruction. Didn't Sony give out free PlayStation a few years ago? Oh, I don't know about that.
I mean, they gave out lots of PS5 Pros to people to check out and make content on and stuff like that.
I mean, I got to say, that's my one time I'm jealous of access. I would love the 30th anniversary PlayStation. I want that so bad.
I mean, it is a normal part of things. Movie reviewers, they get early access to stuff. I just feel like when it comes to games media, things aren't as critical sometimes when they should potentially be.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're afraid of potentially losing access.
I'll cover this one, and then I'll let Rhea get the other ones. CJH Entertainment Plus, thoughts on AI? Are you pro or anti? Are you for regulation and only as a tool, or just banning it completely?
It's too late now. Cat's out of the bag. Okay. What are you gonna do? The cat's already out of the bag.
Are you open to playing games created by AI, or do you prefer to keep how they do like American made? It's going to be human made. It's going to be the disclaimer.
I mean, I'm not. I'm a consumer. If something is well done and a person made it, great. If something is well done and an AI made it, great. Like I said, you let the cat out of the bag. If the AI, think about it like this: the AI that we have right now, that the average person has access to. This is just what the average person has access to. That means that there is far superior AI that companies have access to, that people that probably shouldn't have access to it have access to. So, it's not going to get better. Let's just say that. You could sit there and make your angry tweets all you want, but that's not really going to change anything. What did Coca-Cola do with their holiday ad? They did AI. They used AI to make it. And people cried on Twitter, oh, I'm not going to buy Coca-Cola anymore. Look at their stock. Like, once you crack open that window, hey, stuff will start to get in.
All right. Ray, if you want to handle the next one.
Sure. So Kingsport Cal, friend of the show, says, what did RGT think of the new Super Mario film?
I thought it was good. I'm tired of Jack Black, though. Jack Black has in way too many video game movies. He's been in every video game movie, and I'm tired of it. Please take a break, because he's going to end up in the Zelda movie. He's been in every video game movie.
Oh,
every one of them. Look at any video game movie. Borderlands.
I've never. That's true.
In that,
is he in Minecraft too?
He's the lead. He's Steve.
Oh, he is in Minecraft. Oh wow, I didn't think about that.
He is everywhere.
I'm a Jack Black fan, but I get it. I just watched Dear Santa. It's really the kid accidentally writes a letter to Satan because he's dyslexic. And it's a Farrelly Brothers movie. It's actually very funny. It's very heartwarming, actually, too. The kid they got is great. So I really enjoyed him that. But I did, yes, Jack Black. Stay out of our video game adaptations. It's getting too much.
Goosebumps and anything nostalgic.
Oh, good. Yes.
I watched.
All right, we
Goosebumps
get it. We
movies,
get it.
and
You're a nerd. We get
I
it.
was like, all right, and go away, please.
Yes. Okay, hold on. Oh, my computer froze. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I could hear you.
Yeah.
Rhea, if you can handle the super chat one from Bruce, because I'm gonna have to come back in, I think.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, Kingdom of Nerds, friend of the show, Brucifer asks, thank you again for the $10 super chat to the channel. Really appreciate it. So Brucifer asks, do you think Game Pass helped with the downfall of Xbox?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because they conditioned people to not buy their games. I think if Game Pass would have stayed smaller, it could have been a valuable tool to potentially expand Xbox. But it ended up getting so big where, like, I have Game Pass. I don't buy Xbox games because why would I buy an Xbox game if I have Game Pass and, it's $100-something a year, but that's literally 2 games, cheaper than 2 games sometimes. So, what's the benefit for me? So I think that it could have been done in a manner where, especially if you have much like Sony's idea of how they have things set up for PlayStation, where you have some select games, you have some select third-party games, this, that, or the other, but it's not a full slate. And when you get into a full slate, you condition your consumers to not want to buy games. And that's why if you ask any developer about Xbox sales comparative to any other platform, it's always a fraction of the other platforms because a lot of Xbox gamers don't buy games, and they'll try to argue with that up and down, but the data does not lie.
Yeah, like as far as purchasing the base game itself and then monetizing, additional content, like let's say skins, maybe not necessarily performance enhancing things, but more just, for the hardcore fans who want to enhance their experience. I guess this is an additional question to that, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nickel and dime atmosphere. And sometimes, unfortunately, especially if you're a fan of sports games have been completely ruined by things like that, because not only do you have the focus of the game not necessarily being about the sport. If you play NBA 2K25, the last thing they want you to do is to actually play a game of basketball. They want you to do the virtual cards and build your team and stuff like that and have your player and spend VC on your player, which is real money. That coupled with the fact that competition has been completely destroyed with sports games is why you have the same crappy Madden every year, why you have people that are sick of NBA 2K, because of the fact that, 15 years ago, you had 5 games to choose from. You had 5 different football games to choose from. You had 5 different basketball games to choose from. Now you have one. Is it really a choice?
Thanks. It figures my computer crashes right when my pal Bruce gives a dig at the Xbox. I'm not a fanboy. I like all systems. I like all exclusives. I don't pick a team. And he constantly bashing my poor Xbox. But I understand.
It's a good thing
why,
it cut off, and you got cut off then.
Okay, because I'll get mad. I'll get mad at your response. Okay, nice. All right.
No, I'm glad you could come back, Max.
Yeah.
Thank you for popping back on. Yeah, do you want me to read the next question, or would you like to?
Sure. You can read the next one.
Okay. Yay! Hi, Mr. Memes. The Memes of Destruction asks. Sorry, I struggle with that word a lot. RGT, do you like turtles?
Yeah. One time I was driving down the road and there was a turtle on the road, and I stopped and moved it. I was like, "What the fuck?"
Oh, okay. I thought that was going a different way.
No. Okay, I like animals more than I like people most of the time.
Oh, really?
Honestly. Except for like really small dogs and cats.
Here, Callie, come say hi. She's not interested.
See, dogs are cool. I saw your dog. That's a good size. I don't like little small yappy dogs. My uncle has like 3 of them. I'm like, what are you doing? And cats, I'm allergic to. So,
CJ Entertainment Plus. Do you think Marvel Rivals will be dead in 4 months?
no, I think they've already got a decent player base to where, I think they'll be all right for a while.
Oh, I kind of have like a bonus question. What do you think Microsoft? Since I missed that part, what do you think Microsoft needs to do for next gen? How can you fix Microsoft RGT? How would you fix Microsoft? What would you tell them to do?
I think much like AI, the door has been opened. So it's gonna have to be if I'm ahead of Xbox, I'm done with consoles.
You're done with consoles. You're
I'm
going
done
third party
because
no point.
You've already cracked open the window. You've told everyone that they already have an Xbox. You're putting your games onto other platforms, sometimes day and date, sometimes a couple months away. You've cracked that door open, and people say, "Oh no, this strategy is going to work." Like based on what? Because this has never been done before, and so far the data that we have is not. The thing about Microsoft is when you look at Sony, what's one of their biggest divisions is video games. When you look at Nintendo, they are video games. When you look at Microsoft, if they were to chop off the console market, they wouldn't care. They have a million other things going on that make them money. So it's I don't know. I don't know that it can be saved. It would change. It would have to be a massive course correction, which would then take people out of the Xbox brand because they're so used to Game Pass already.
All right, cool. I think we'll be wrapping up shortly here. Ray, did you have a randomizer, or do we want just RGT to pick someone from the chat for the book, The Art of Wrestling?
Yeah, I think RGT would be the best one to pick the winner.
So if you want to look at the chat and just pick someone, they can. I'll leave my Twitter or comment on the video afterwards if you pick one, so I can get you your copy sent. But Figure Drawing also has one last question. Do you think Nintendo should finally make a Nintendo American Football or Nintendo Wrestling game?
I think that ship has sailed because they used to have sports games. They used to have Ken Griffey Jr. baseball, which was great. And they had Kobe Bryant courtside, which was great. And then they just stopped. I don't know why they stopped, but I mean, Left Field Studios Productions, whatever they were called, they were the ones that mostly handled that sort of stuff. But yeah, like I don't know. For whatever reason, they don't seem interested in the realistic sports genre, which is fine. You know, they don't have to because there used to be a million companies making it, but you know, now might not be a bad time. But when it comes to American football, you also have the whole Madden license. If you don't have that NFL license, you're not moving units. We saw that with was it All-Star Pro Football 2K8, which was made by the 2K people, but it didn't have the real players, so nobody cared about it.
Cool.
And I'm going to pick. I'm going to scroll and stop here. We are going with scrolling, and stop. King Sport Cow.
Yes, that's my dog. Friend. That's my dog.
That's Cal. He supports a lot of live streams. Thank you, RGT. Cool. So I will be sending Cal a copy of Art of Wrestling about Nintendo 64 wrestling games. So Cal, reach out to me. I could contact Cal. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate all the time that you've given to us. We went a little bit over time, RGT.
Yeah, no problem.
Very, very happy that you made time available for me and Rhea. We had a blast. I kind of want to keep you even longer, but no. I respect your time. Do you have anything coming up that you want to promote? Like live streams? I know you're going to be busy with the Game Awards, right? Game Awards contact.
Yeah, but I'm not watching it. I've sworn off Keeley events.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay. He's burned me too many times. But yeah, nothing really like super planned. Just I kind of fly by the seat of my pants a lot of the time. So there will be videos. They're probably will be live streams as well. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Check them out.
That's rad. Yeah, I also just wanted to give like some friendly reminders to the chat and folks watching over on X. Be sure to subscribe to RGT85 on YouTube. So if you just type in at RGT85 or even just, RGT85 on Google, you'll literally see all you need to see as far as like getting in touch with his content and catching up on it. And also X, definitely follow him there too. Linktree will bring you up to speed on all his content as well. And we did get a chance to cover some of his literature as well. So get your copy of the complete Sega 32X guide on Amazon. Soft covers are available for shipping, so physical copies of the book are available. I just ordered mine, and of course, last but not least, order the Art of N64 Wrestling games as well. So yeah, both are, super awesome, extensive game guides and history, writings that I definitely am looking forward to reading as well.
Cool. Well, definitely check all that out. What's your other channel name? RGT Stash?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
RGT 85 Stash.
Or I would say give him a big boost on RGT Stash because I want to see you live stream him more. I love all your content, but I love live streams too. So go check them out there too. I think that's all we have. Thank you for making. I anticipate visiting you at Too Many Games. I'll bring you some tapes, bring you some retro stuff.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Hang out. I'm really looking forward to this year. One of my favorite conventions ever. And you made it that way last time. I was like, wow, I want to try harder at YouTube after I met you. I'm like, I want to try harder. I want to do refocused. I'm like, these are genuine people. Like that's another thing too. Like you said about live streams, I think it's hard to be a content creator, but go touch grass and meet people in real life, and then things change. If you start talking to people in real life without just the chat and everything, it's a completely different experience. And that meant a lot to me and my friend Rhea. We were talking, we're like brainstorming, like what are we gonna do, and then we started this streaming series, and you inspired us. So nice. That don't ever get too big where you don't do that. I'm not saying you will, but spending that extra time, you were there hours after.
Yeah,
it was panel about. I'm like, wow, he stayed. I was impressed by that. He stayed.
I was hungover as hell too. But
oh, really? I didn't know.
Oh man.
Oh, so the shades weren't just for show. Like when you came in, you're like, oh, it's bright lights.
No, it was. It was. Yeah, we. It was funny because it was like 10 o'clock Friday night, and I just had one beer, and I was about to go to bed. I was about to go back to my room, but like a bunch of people that I haven't seen in a while showed up. And I told John was like, oh, I'll be there at like 10:30. I'm like, all right, we'll hang out for a few minutes and then I'm going to bed. And then by the time he got there, dude, I was gone. He was like, what's wrong with you? I was like, bro, I'm going live on the main channel. What's up? Like, it was, bro, I was swimming in my bed. I was like, oh, goodness.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll see how you are that when I meet you at Too Many Games again. All right. I think that's it, everyone. Thanks for the support of the stream. Thank you for everyone commenting. Cal, contact me for your book. I will get it to you, and then I'm probably going to get a copy myself. And write another book, RGT.
Maybe.
I might. Maybe. All right. Bye, everyone.
Night, y'all. Take care.